for folks who are not aware of the Dice Dragons Guild, can you give us a little brief overview for the live?
Sure. So we're just yet another live streaming or live play, I guess. We went from live streaming to YouTube VODs, but another TTRPG VOD / podcast out there. We're just playing our game and sharing it with everyone. So we're on YouTube and sometimes stream our VODs on Twitch as well. And we have a little Discord community, and we're part of the flood of TTRPG content out there.
Don't downplay how awesome you are. Your original channel name was Nat30, right?
Yeah, we were the Nat 30s because we were joking like 30 is the new 20. We were all in our 30s, but as I get closer to 40, it was getting time to change the name.
So what year did you start your channel? What adventure cycle was your first one? How do you pin all of this together? Let's talk a little bit of the nerd stuff because I need a little bit of joy.
Sure. So we started, we being my friends and I, my husband, his friends, we all just started playing D&D in my living room in January of 2020. Notorious year.
Yeah.
So we were just playing as normal. And then, of course, about 8 weeks in, everything shut down. So we ended up switching over to virtual play. And it was all my idea. I will take all of the good and bad credit for us going virtual. It was a lot of work and I wasn't expecting it, but I was listening or watching Critical Role and I didn't realize they were live on Twitch. I saw them do it. I'm like, why can't I do it? So I did. And we started playing Tyranny of Dragons. That campaign went 3 years. Everybody was new except for me, but I was a new DM. And now we have rebranded. We're playing in person again, as I showed behind me. And we are running a homebrew campaign and all the ladies, all my friends had to take, life came back in and took over as it does for women, for the most part. So new friends have joined. So we have all of the guys and some new ladies and, we're just friends having fun and sharing it. And we're enjoying the community that we've built over this pandemic. We've made some really great friends, including a new member who joined us from Oregon. Her name is Kat. She doesn't get to play with us, but she is amazing. And so we had decided that she is part of the Dice Dragons Guild, even though she's not in Massachusetts. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. It really occurred to me that you could make real friendships and have real communities online during original Worlds of Warcraft.
Yes.
Izzy, I don't know if you're old enough for original Worlds of Warcraft.
Yeah. Yeah. I played the first 2 years when it came out. I played the first 2 years.
Do you think that helped set you up for gave you the survival skills you needed for 2020?
I'm actually going to go back further than that. So
Whoa.
My father was very much into technology and stuff like that. So we had our first computer when I was 9, which is 30 years ago now. And
you're such a baby. I'm so excited. All my young guests, you're so young. Like, yes.
I don't feel young. This ain't a young back. I'll tell you that.
You have 2 kids. That's the kids' fault.
Yeah, right. Of course, we'll blame them.
Let's just blame them.
Yeah, everything. So my dad got internet and was all about the internet and like learning it back when, like, I don't know if people even remember Prodigy Online was a thing. Yeah. Like AOL wasn't even launched yet. And then we moved to AOL. And during that time, I actually began text-based AOL chat room TTRPG playing. So I played, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf, the Apocalypse. Oh my gosh. Like, back then.
Were you mudding?
What was that?
Were you mudding?
I did do a little bit of that, yes, but I was playing with other people. And so my community actually started back when I was about 15. I met a whole group of wonderful folks. They're down in North Carolina. It's just so happened we all were being truthful about our ages. So I actually met my first group of TTRPG online friends when I was 18 years old. I flew down to North Carolina. They're still my really good friends. We've gone through, we're very separate. I'm in Massachusetts, they're in North Carolina. So we've lived our lives, but we've never lost touch. And one of my friends actually helped to develop a TTRPG called The Midnight World, which is a horror-based game. So you can look that up. It's on DM's Guild. But yeah, we became friends playing TTRPGs in AOL text chat rooms. I met them. We've been friends forever. We've watched our children grow. And so I feel like I had been set up because I was such a homebody nerd in my early teens for success for this, like 2 decades before it could have even been horribly dreamed up.
That's true. Like, before people knew what catfishing was, before everybody lied online, like I'm old and I'm very excited about the fact that I'm one of the last generation of people whose adolescent antics and 20s antics were not recorded on the internet forever.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of bad life decisions that I like to tell people about in person and not be ambushed by that is a thing that I like about my life that is distinctly different from the people after me.
I didn't get Facebook till I was 26 years old, and it was like newish. So yeah, I feel you. I don't know how people are making it out there because we did some stupid stuff and it didn't end up on
so many stupid things. Things that I should not have done, things that I regret doing, all these kinds of things. And there are things that you are personal to you that you just don't want. Like, you don't say people have easy access to, like,
right.
Boom.
Yep.
Like,
there's a picture.
And here's a picture of you just doing something really bad.
Right.
And it's not that I regret the person I became, and these are all part of it, but I like the fact that I might get to gatekeep a little bit of this information.
Yep. It's a joy that other people now don't know, especially the stuff I was doing on AOL chat rooms. I won't go into detail.
No, my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is a wonderful segue to where we're going to take our little bit of adventure today. We are talking about women culture in gaming. And since you've basically grew up gaming, you've gotten to see it change so much in the last X amount of time, and there were bad things happening and there are less bad things happening now. But it is, we still have a lot of ways to go, but I feel like things are better. Okay.
Yes.
I do wholly believe that things are better. I remember going online and then there was an era of things that if you were online, you were hearing homophobic remarks as the standard.
Yeah.
Like everything is this or everything is that, and you are blah. And that was just like, excuse me? My replies to these became very rote and became more explicit when I interacted. But that is something
it was hard.
It was
still hard,
but we still found communities there. So tell me about some of your first important role playing communities, and what was the makeup you felt like between men and women? And I think this also parallels the first summer blockbuster, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But tell me a little bit about your first important female relationships.
So when we were playing back in those AOL chat rooms, I will say that 90% of the people were male, and the community that I built was 90% male. So when I went down to North Carolina and met all those folks, it was all guys and then a couple of their girlfriends. It was all guys. But when it came to the TTRPGs or video games that maybe we then played together, I, being a woman of color and a woman in general, there was a lot of like, even back then it was like, are you really a woman? And then once you started saying you were, or a girl, because I was a child back then, all of the stuff would come out. Like you'd start to get harassed back in the day. I mean, I was 15 years old. I would start getting little pings on the side and the ASL questions and all of that. But what I found with my North Carolina community was that they always had my back. So that was, while it was probably likely that there were more women or girls playing, they were also probably playing males, but if you ever exposed that you were a female, and I did this several times where I would play, play as in the TTRPGs, where there was werewolf or vampire, especially vampire, which has a highly like erotic, vampires and their, how
Anne Rice did a thing to an entire generation of people. I don't think people really realized before sparkly vampires was really moody vampire.
yeah, right. And it was all like there was some stuff that was probably being said to me by grown men that should not have been. But if you played a man, oh my gosh. Yeah, you could actually play instead of having to have this like sexuality always hovering around your character because you're female. Like you could actually play. So that was one thing that I remember doing when I wasn't playing with my known set of friends. I would play male characters because then you could actually play the game. Similarly, if I played video games, one of my favorites has been for a very long time, although I never have time now, is like Team Fortress 2 or like, first person shooters. Yeah. But when you get on the headset and your voice comes out like mine, it's like, it's a girl, all of the slurs come out and, never mind. They don't know the color of my skin, but that stuff was all happening overtly anyway, the whole time. Right. So my community was mostly male. I didn't have anybody who wanted to play TTRPGs with me in person who were not my family. 'Cause that just, in the 90s, this wasn't cool.
I was never cool. I was never cool. Yeah.
Yeah. This was one of the least cool things you could be doing. And I grew up in Massachusetts. I was the only, so my mother is Black, my father is white, and I was one of maybe 5 non-white families in my town. So playing D&D, being a nerd, and then looking different from everybody else didn't really foster community for playing TTRPGs. So my community was online.
I understand. And that is one of the magic things about the internet. Like, we're going to look back historically and we're going to look at the internet just like we look at uranium or lead-based paint or, like sulfur. We're going to we exposed our global culture to this thing that we weren't really prepared to understand the benefits and the problems with. Right. But one of the things that has always been glorious, and I don't know if you know this about me, about Izzy, but I was in the operating room when Al Gore gave birth to the internet. I was just right there with.
Okay.
That's an old school joke. You gotta be this old to understand that particular joke.
The father of the internet, of course.
Yeah, absolutely, the mother of the internet, Al Gore. And so like being able to find your communities, and we're seeing another version of that here, even on this app, where people who are neurodivergent or people who are trans or non-binary, they're finding each other. And because, statistically, and when this is a great segue to some of the math I wanted to talk about today, and talking about how it gets better. And we're going to circle back to your individual experiences that allowed you to charge at an environment that inherently says, I don't look or sound like any of these people. I still want to play. What kind of personality does that mean? And what does that do for people after you? But before we go to all that level of shenanigans, let's talk about gaming math and women. Okay. So, this has come up in my live before. Since 2020, the number of people who self-identify as gamers has doubled.
That makes sense.
You can see that for all the situations that have happened. That is definitely a thing. The largest group of those people, and that's not surprising statistically, the largest group in that growth group is women.
Yep.
And so there are now more women gamers than ever, and there's now more women. If I took our group as stats for I've always tried to be an inclusive audience, but we still have a male majority just because of the subject matter. But we are now probably, I wish the census did this, like gamer women are almost statistically closer to where they are in the actual populace, which means that they're outnumbering men. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
And that is very exciting. But when you go to conventions, you go to other things, still do not see that.
Yeah. I think part of the reason for that is still a little bit of gatekeeping. So like women play games, a lot of times mobile games and like handheld games and not so much on the consoles. Not to say that there aren't women. I mean, we've got, plenty of examples of women that are playing console games. But what was happening, at least before the pandemic, was like, it's like you weren't allowed to say you were a gamer unless you were playing like hardcore games like Call of Duty and what. So you could be gaming and playing games. Candy Crush is a game. You could be gaming, but you weren't allowed to call yourself a gamer.
I don't understand where Farmville wasn't a game, but Stardew Valley was. Like, there was a thing. Like, you were cool if you Stardew Valley, but Farmville, like, I love me some Stardew Valley. No knocks at Stardew Valley, but I don't feel like the two of them are like.
Yeah, it was like you weren't allowed to say it. And so I wonder even if, like, there have always been just as many women playing games, just you'd be embarrassed to say, or you wouldn't call yourself a gamer. Maybe you would just say, I just play Candy Crush sometimes on my phone. You're still a gamer. You're still playing.
You would say I'm phone addicted. I remember way back in the day, one of my buddy's mother was addicted to Game Boy Tetris. That is what she was doing, and I'm talking not like with color, and she was just like, she was a gamer. She spent a lot of time doing that. Now, I think that is a really interesting question. Like, how far does women gaming culture, like, obviously you were part of it and you were doing it for online cultures as early as people could start chatting at each other regularly, right? That existed, which is amazing. Okay. But there is another and an insidious thing that I want more people to know about, because I want to see if this is statistically true. Now, all the stuff that I've done has said that this is the case, but I am not, I'm a tiny publisher with a small budget and a small audience. Okay. All right. But the number one growth area. Let me put it this way. There are more than 4,000 new SKUs added to tabletop gaming every year. Okay. A large percentage of those are crowdfunding. Okay.
Right.
So that is with the advent of crowdfunding, we have reached the golden age of board games. Right. We're living in the golden age of a couple different things. One, of course, is long form TV drama. Like, Oh my God, I love this. I did not realize that this was going to be my ultimate art form, but long form TV drama. Board games is another one. There could be we could also argue that we are in a food golden age as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, how it applies to what we're talking about. But crowdfunding, as a publisher, the number one factor for going from like a hidden gem indie $100,000 or $80,000 crowdfund to $1 million crowdfund is by using the business model and social marketing method that grows. And the one that is Meta and Facebook.
Right.
We've seen this with every CMON title and all those miniatures one. When you can get a cost of acquisition to a certain number, and your average ticket price for that thing is in the hundreds of dollars, you can suddenly flip the switch and boom, it is like printing money.
Wow.
Boom. No, it is like if you can get that audience that, there's a lot of different things where things are vetted. But if it has a certain momentum, you can just say, hey, you should start pouring money into Meta and it will return. And that was the way it was. And one of the reasons we have problems now with crowdfunding is because different large publishers have violated the trust of their audience, permanently turning people off to crowdfunding. Now, to our topic at hand, and this is not going to be surprising to you, is that there is a lady tax on Facebook.
Okay.
So women are in charge of the majority of household spending. A larger percentage of products are also targeted at women for that reason or just for their category. Okay. And there may be more women on Facebook statistically than men for various other reasons. Okay.
Right.
So when you put up an ad as a small publisher, and you want to know let women know that this game could be for them. Okay. You are paying 30% more to get to women than you are to men.
Huh. Okay. That makes sense as to why all of my statistics never show women, even though we were at one point more women on our group than men. And it was always so confusing. I did not know that. That's
no,
bad.
100% the case. And so games are a small margin thing. And so we cannot compete with the Disneys of the world or the other people who have a lot of dollars to put in and around these kinds of things. And so what ends up happening is women do not realize that there is a financial curtain blocking gaming from their site.
Right.
Where men,
right.
It is just being... hey, Battle Bear. They're just being poured like gaming references to them all the time.
Yeah. That's not great. That's not great.
You didn't realize I was going to bring that hard Asian math, Izzy. You did not realize.
I did not know. I did not know that was a thing.
Oh God! When I was an adult, we talked about this when I was on your stuff at Kevin. I was VP of marketing for software development companies.
Right.
And so, the math of why things work is a really big deal to me. And there are a lot of reasons that when people think things are fair, they aren't.
Right.
And they are invisible to people. Right? We've talked about, if folks don't know, redlining is a real deal. If you live on one side of, if your area code's one versus the other, because of how getting loans work, you might not get a loan.
Yep.
If you do not have the cash flow to start a business, guess what? You will always be working for somebody else, which means you are X degrees behind everybody else. In getting wealth together. Okay. Gaming is weirdly the same.
Sad.
You know this, Izzy, right?
I work in a bank too, so
gaming is a set of skills.
Yep.
And it's a community. And so if you don't get that opportunity, and gaming is a weirdly legacy thing.
Right. It's sad to say now.
No, it isn't. You got started early. You are in the, your wealth of skills have paid off. Like, let's talk about some of the skills that you got that from early gaming, that you are obviously the social calluses that said, I want to be here. You know, F that guy. You don't get to tell me where to be. And I have a community of people that says they want me here.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Learning how to communicate. I would even say just like with various types of people, because even though for a long time, because I've been going to gaming conventions since I was 9, 10, my dad used to bring me all over the place. Yeah. Me and my dad would bring us all over. And usually there would be about 5 women or girls or whatever in the whole convention back then. And, 25 plus years ago. But what you did see, even though it wasn't maybe overtly spoken, was neurodivergence everywhere. Like there were all variety of people there who maybe didn't have because we didn't talk about it back then. There was no diagnoses back in, the 1990. They didn't know how to communicate normally, as people would say back then. But I learned how to communicate with all various types of people, LARPing, playing different games, understanding what different body language means, whether it was text-based or in these conventions where, I didn't look like anybody else and I stood out in that way. But some of the people had trouble with social aspects outside of that community. And so I had a lot of opportunity to learn how to communicate with people where we both stood out in different ways for different reasons. And I think that helped over time. And in the jobs that I've had, and even with the community, because people still say things about other folks. It's the way we are as humans. And people will still exclude people if they themselves don't have the social skills to meet people at least halfway of where their social skills may end or have, struggle reaching. So that's something that I think that I also gained is like, yes, I stood out, but I was in these communities where other people also stood out when they're not there. When we were in that room, we are the weirdos. So it helped in terms of communicating with people. There was always diversity even within the homogeny, I guess, of the conventions. And that was one thing. It was a safe space for people who didn't fit in elsewhere, especially in the 90s and early 2000s.
I love that so much. Soft skills cannot be underrated, and they shouldn't also be overrated depending on how people work, right? We're talking about people who have different sets of social skills, different set of analytical skills, different set of work skills. But for the longest time in the early aughts, if somebody had the chutzpah to put 40-man raiding guild leader in their resume, I gave them preferences. I was like, nice. I'm like, how far did you get? They're like, I got through Blackwing Lair. I'm like, oh my. Like the social construct of volunteer organizations and online guilds has a lot to do. And when people are this is their chosen time, how they spend it and how you motivate people during a time that is discretionary, where there's no paycheck. Right. And
yeah. It was bringing up World of Warcraft. So I remember starting right when. Right. I remember starting right when the beta came out, and my first character was a rogue. I made it to level 4 without realizing that you needed to do skills or anything like that. So I was just grinding away, and then I'm like, oh wait, I can unlock things. So I don't even know how long I played, but I played for the first 2 years I was always a troll healer. And I only really stopped because it started feeling like a job. Like I was joining groups that were like, you have to be here at this time and this time. I was like, I am like 20 and I go out sometimes.
I was not too 20 and I was done going out. So I was like, yeah, give me that Warcraft.
I mean, I enjoyed it, but they made it so unpleasant to play because if you didn't show up every day that they wanted you to, you didn't get anything. And it was I'm trying to like have fun, which in part also, if we bring in again the female aspect to this, women are often caretakers, whether it's of children or older people. And even what has happened in my group. So my group of tabletop gaming, we started off with my husband and his 2 male friends and myself and my 3 female friends. All 3 of those female friends have left because of obligations with their family. I'm not saying the men don't have obligations with their family. I'm just saying that the onus is typically on the women. So one has left for children reasons, another has, and they were sisters. So the other one left to, in part, take care of their mother. And then another one left for children reasons again. So like caretaking and all of that. It's like women. So to go back to the World of Warcraft, you have a raiding party. You have to be here at this time, this time, this time, and this time every week, whatever. Maybe the husband or the guy or the brother, because he's got a sister who takes care of the mom. Like maybe the men are able to make that time where the women who are the default caretakers can't commit to that. Once you have kids.
No.
I mean, my husband's great. I'm the one who works outside of the home. I work remotely, but he's been a stay-at-home dad for 8 years. But not everybody
good on him and good on you.
Yeah. Because women get paid less and all that fun stuff. But we even saw it here where you can't, by then requiring that we show up at this particular time. And if you don't show up, then you don't get the loot. And you do that over and over and over again. You might inadvertently be excluding women from joining your game because we have to take care of our ailing parents, our elderly parents, our children. We have to run around and do all of the things. And in a lot of families, there is still the emotional burden that women hold. Maybe the man does all the housework, but the financial stuff, as you mentioned, the financial stuff, the budgeting, the emotional labor of taking care of children and all of the things that go with that. We don't get to be online as much as we would like. And then we don't get the loot. And then we're like, why am I playing? I can't even level up. So anyway, that was a long spiel, but
no, there you touch on a couple of things that people should inherently be aware of. And I don't think this gets talked about enough because you talked a little bit about neurodivergence and we talked a little bit about being socially different as people of color and being biracial. You're never enough of one race or another race to count as like you always feel like an outsider. But there's also an extra level of pressure as women that there's a double standard. Like a gamer dude can look however the gamer dude wants. Nobody thinks that it is appropriate to comment on them. But women, there's a double standard for, are you too attractive or are you too, like whatever, like negative something you want to put in there. Right. So now you have not even like a limiter. You have to be in a bandwidth of things to do. Like my female executive friends, if they have children, also feel mortified, like that they're not a good enough parent. Like, because women have to excel at everything. Everybody thinks that they can comment on what a woman does. And that's some bull. Like, it is not acceptable. Like, and I had to have this. I think I was in my 40s before somebody explained this to me. And I finally I was like, holy, like, oh my God. And because everybody knows their own individual situation. And then and this is one of those things that was laid out to me, like, I don't know, during a long trip during a gaming, coming back from a gaming convention, one of my women gamer friends, like, explained, like, nuanceical, right? They had been like an OR, like worked in the OR with doctors, right? And then their partner, their husband, their career took off. And so they had to make a choice between the two of them, which of them got to have a career and which of them got to take care of the kids.
Right.
And so, and they made the opposite choice that you did. You're like, okay. And so like that also created a whole bunch of rifts and other kinds of things in shenanigans based on these kind of hard choices. Like, could I have been more of a person if I had made this different choice?
Right. Yeah.
That's not fair. Like,
no. It's super hard. I mean, everybody comments and I'm older now. So like I only so much care about what strangers say, but
well, you look fantastic, Izzi, and I like talking to you, and I love your soul color pink. Right? I very much love this. If you were my banker, I would be so excited. I'd be like, oh my god, yeah.
Well, I actually work in the anti-money laundering and the anti-financial crimes piece. So I oversee. I'm a senior vice president in banking. I oversee the anti-financial crimes, so fraud, security, and money laundering. Yeah. So I have a couple, several. I'm new to this particular new financial institution that I'm at, but I've been doing it for about a decade. And fabulous people that I work with. But one of the things that had been told to me was, I like to color my hair. When I first started, obviously as an analyst, started at the bottom, now we're here kind of thing. Like when I was an analyst, I didn't do anything. I was in banking. You don't mess with your hair. I won't even go into the politics of black hair, but
yeah, I was like, I'm not even gonna. Yeah, I'll wait for it.
6 hours.
I will just wait for it.
Right. So, but after a certain level, I'm going to say vice president or so, and the title didn't necessarily matter. It was the respect that I had gotten over time. But I started to dye my hair again. Very subtly, it was more like the sides would be brown and maybe the tips would be pink or blue or something. And then I started to do a little bit more and a little bit more. And I kind of got to a point where I'm good at my job. I had gained respect from people, and it got to a point where I was like, fire me over my hair. If that's if this is going to make you that upset, then fire me. Nobody has ever said anything about my hair. I'm new to this job. I've been at this particular job for a month. When they interviewed me, I had blue hair. I cut it all off to start over because you get a new job, you start over. But I dyed it pink about 3 weeks ago. No one has said anything. But what somebody did say at the last job I was at was that me doing this and being who I am, so me being a female woman of color, senior vice president in banking with pink hair, means a lot. Like, this person was like crying because she was saying, this allows, you might not realize it and you weren't doing this for this reason, because I wasn't. I was doing it because I love pink. I love pink and I love having colored hair. But she said, like, the fact that you can do it and nobody says anything means that other people can come behind you and you are there. You're a woman of color. You have pink hair. You're a senior vice president. You're a nerd. You're all of the things that means that us behind you, even though you're just kind of walking along, not realizing, you turn around and there's an army of people who are like, thank you. And that got me, because like, I'm just trying to be my authentic self. All of these corporations saying, bring your authentic self to work. Okay, I will. And so this is what it is. But by doing so, you make space for other people, and whether that's in gaming, like, it translates over to that. And that's one thing that when we go back to the 90s, and a little bit past, there were no people I could play with that looked like me. There were no women that wanted to play, no girls that wanted to play. I played with my family or with a bunch of guys online when I could. And then something happened in the past 5-6 years, and it is the best thing ever because everyone's playing, everyone looks different. There are people up in arms to like make change and make inclusivity. We all know how D&D was or TTRPGs. Nobody looked like me unless they were an orc, a goblin, or, a hobgoblin. Beautiful was blonde hair, blue eyes. Women looked a particular way every time.
We're gonna circle back one more time to Worlds of Warcraft because, I think one of the things that affected that was, particularly in Asia and Korea, they were not playing Alliance because they did not see themselves in blonde hair, blue eyed. They much rather be orcs.
Yeah, because
they thought
in trouble.
Right? You're like, hey, yeah, I don't see anybody. But no, you're right. In this upsurge, even before the pandemic, there was this groundswell of, okay, let's go do this thing. I'm allowed to have this kind of fun. And, you were disparaging that your voice is one of the wave of people doing TTRPGs and you come join the fun. But that wave is important, and you're part of an important thing that happened where people were coming online and sharing their nerd experience.
Right.
And people saw more people. Yeah, and people saw, hey, that person could do it. I can definitely do this. And this is one of the things about role-playing culture. I think role-playing culture has, across gaming, been the first more accepting area, in general.
I mean, LARPing, come on.
LARPing started, exactly.
LARPers. Where are my LARPers?
Yeah, LARP folks, the people who are being their most authentic self in gaming that I saw earliest at conventions were trans people at LARPs. Yep. I was like, okay, this is a thing, right? And it's definitely a thing, being your authentic self, and there's an army of people behind you that you don't realize that you are paving the way for, is something that people should realize when they're feeling alone and disconnected because they're the tip of the spear.
Yeah. And it's a hard position to be in. And you might not even realize that you're in it until somebody tells you, because I didn't really think about it until last year when another woman, darker skinned woman than I, so living a different life than me. I'm light skinned. So, colorism is a thing. But when she told me, it was like,
that's hard, Izzy. I'm going to take a moment to wince for that. Can I?
No, it's a thing. My lived experience is very different from hers just because I have lighter skin and pink hair, where she has green hair and dark skin. And it's she was the one who told me, thank you. And I didn't even realize I was doing anything. But then when she said it, it was oh, I am. And I didn't realize it. But now that I do realize it, I'm more intentional about it. I will wear T-shirts on Zoom calls. I was a big fan, not to go on another tangent. That's what I do. When it comes to culture and everything, it's for so long, maybe forever, there's one particular subset of human beings who defined what most things were, including professionalism. Professionalism was a tie and a suit and a girl on the side and a whiskey at 3 and, dinner with whoever. And we were all expected to conform to that. You have to wear a suit. You have to look a particular way. Your hair has to be slicked back. Your hair has to. And then the pandemic happened. And there was a little bit of change happening before. But when the pandemic happened, and not only that, but tie, suit, girl on the side, whiskey, whatever, wife at home with the kids who you never talk about and you never see and they don't exist. But then the pandemic happens and everybody's stuck at home with their kids and their spouses and their PJs and their hair a mess and nothing is going right and the kids aren't in
and
school.
The massive beards and the massive beards.
And then suddenly, and then it's I'm not going to go get my hair straightened. I'm going to keep my hair and put dreads in. I'm going to get my hair braided. I'm going to wear a T-shirt on this meeting. I'm going to not put makeup on today. I'm going to have my slippers on. And my kids are going to run through the background screaming and yelling, and everyone's going to hear them. And it's we have all had the opportunity now to define what professional means. What does professional mean? It no longer has to mean a suit and a tie. On a professional standpoint, I'm going to be doing my first ever panel where I'm going to be discussing money laundering and whatnot at a live event. I won't go into details here because I keep those two parts of me separate. But my hair is going to be this color when I sit up on that panel. And so it's like, is that professional? Because I guess so, because I'm saying it is. You invited me to speak as a professional. So
I generally feel like if you feel good about how you look, then that's the right, like that you wanted to like, and you like people's form of it, like expression for what they look like is, it's a level of, and it changes. But I mean, if you've ever gone out to like California, anywhere around Silicon Valley, you realize you never know who the billionaire or the millionaires are by how they dress.
Yeah.
100%. They have done this thing. And, and I think that's also part of it. People like saw their, like, and their bosses are like, tech. Right. Yeah, no. Izzy, this has been fantastic, but we still have not hit on one of the core features, which was how running a game as a woman adds to the game. And we're going to talk a tiny bit about diversity, but you've been running this game. Are you the sole game master for Dice Dragon?
I'm the primary, I would say. So a couple of people have dabbled in it. My husband's run some games, and then Patrick, who's also on our one of the players in the main game, he ran a game, and they both done great jobs. As a woman, so I have been very intentional in a lot of things. So, running the game as a game master. So first of all, I can only do like 3 voices. So that's one thing. Like, I wish sometimes I could have like a deeper voice because I'm like, this is my deep voice. And it's not very good.
This is your deep voice, Izzy. Yeah.
I can't get that low. So I'm like, are my men convincing enough? But one thing that does end up happening is like, I kind of overdo it on the female presenting, which I don't mind. So like women or androgynous or non-binary or like more feminine, like leaning on the more feminine side of like non-binary or like the androgyny piece. And I'm okay with it, because there's plenty of dudes out there. But I have found like a lot of times I will get more into playing the women because I feel more comfortable. I'm not trying to do a voice. I'm just being a woman, and I know women's lives, better.
So you're bringing unique stories that are more individualized, a different experience, a different flavor of adventure because it's a woman's story, and you just don't see that as often in Dungeons and Dragons culture, for example, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more female NPCs because it's like my default. There's more women or female presenting NPCs. I'm also trying to be more, we don't have as much combat, and I'm not going to say that's a more masculine or feminine thing, but like my combat is more story driven. Like sometimes I throw random stuff in there for fun, but it's a lot of role play on purpose. It's a lot of storytelling and character development and emotional things. And I'm trying not to make people like too emotional right now as we're just getting started and getting to know each other. But as we do, I'm probably going to like lean into it a little bit harder. But that's another thing even growing up, I liked playing D&D but it was really combat heavy. It was, let's go through the dungeon, let's slog through. Okay, cool. I wanted to know what my rogue, because it was always a rogue. I wanted to know what my rogue was doing, like on the side, and can they get a drink with the bartender after work? And like, that's what I wanted to do. But my uncle is not going to be playing a romantic bartender thing with his, 15-year-old niece. So,
and good on him for not wanting to. Good,
right.
good. Yeah, good on him.
Right. But this I can do because, as they joked, role playing is an excuse to flirt with your friends, which happens very often.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm very intentional about having a diverse number of folks. I've been trying to be very intentional about adding diversity when it comes to what do I have? There is, what was it called? Limitless Heroics was a Kickstarter that I backed, and it was all ways that you can incorporate people with various like abilities and able-bodied versus, I don't know the terms, so I apologize if I'm not in the right terminology. But basically, how can you incorporate either, folks that are in wheelchairs, folks that are in, that have a chronic pain problem. Like I can definitely relate with that, or a chronic mental illness problem, or, just all various things, folks that are maybe amputees, or like how you can incorporate it without it being seen as a negative thing. It's just a part of who they are. So Limitless Heroics has been something that's really great, where I'm trying to add more diversity in that way, because I don't actually have a lot of, mental health awareness always. Our group has plenty of challenges, especially as we're approaching 40. We've seen some stuff. But when it comes to more physical challenges, we don't really have that. So I'm trying to make sure that I represent it in a way that's respectful, but also so that they're not invisible. It's
being invisible
in a world of magic, right?
Yeah, like being invisible fundamentally means you feel like you are disconnected, and that disconnection can be horribly damaging to a person. Izzi, you are fantastic. One of the things that I have myself discovered when we do all female play tests, or I interact with like women's night role playing games and ask them like, how do they think there's different? And this comes up is they will go multiple sessions without combat. They will talk through so many problems as to be very, very different. I'm glad you mentioned the de-emphasis on combat. That combat is really, have we exhausted all of our options? Okay, let's get, now it's time for stabby. Right. Oh, and assassination not really being combat. Like, that's also like. Oh,
yeah. Or we'll just stab you in the back while you're sleeping. I mean, it's either, let's talk it out, or, hey, you went to sleep.
Yeah, I don't want to risk. Let's not have a physical altercation that is fair.
Yeah, right. Right. When I play Fallout or any game like that, I always kill people from behind a bush. That's how I do it.
I'm sneaking up on them. Like, I'm shooting you with that sniper rifle. Where am I? Like, who was that? Like, oh, not running.
If I don't get you on the first shot, I'm running.
Okay. You have been a joy. We're in the wrap up now. Where can people find you next? Well, what can people do to interact with you and be one of the army of people behind your greatness?
Well, I appreciate it. So we are Dice Dragons Guild. We're on YouTube mostly, but on Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, we premiere our VODs of our D&D campaign. Sometimes we also will stream it on Twitch at the same time, so you can come hang out and chat with us while you're watching the game that we're playing. We have a Discord community that you can check out. If you can go to our link tree, which is Dice Dragons Guild. And we're just telling our story, enjoying it. We've gotten some really good feedback from folks in our chat that we have appreciated. So, and then as we get support, we're upping our production value, adding more fun things, adding minis, terrain, all that fun stuff. So we're Dice Dragons Guild everywhere.
Plus an even more impressive bar, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
Like,
and where we play.
Yes, it's so good. That is amazing. Of course, for folks who are fans of Fight in a Box, our next project, Conquest Princess, is coming up. Yes, fashion is power. Now, if you haven't checked out any of our stuff, our current content is all about the space fashion currently. Izzi, I was going to ask one very specific question. Now I've lost my mind because I was self-promoting. This is why I so rarely self-promote. This has been your first live, correct? Uh-oh. Did we lose that Izzi with that hard question? Uh-oh. Come back, Izzi. Come back. You did a fantastic job, and I think you should think about doing more of this.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me or see me, but
now I can.
I would love to.
Thanks everybody for.
Yeah, no, this is my first live. I would love to do it again.
Yes. If at any time you need a Gaijin for anything, please think of me as your spare. You probably have a primary Gaijin already. A lot of people do. But I love chatting. I loved your story, and I wish you all the luck. All right.
Thank you. You too.
We're checking out everybody. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week.
Bye.